Hey guys, it's James here from eBassGuitar. In today's bass guitar lesson, I want to show you one simple drill that you can use to learn the 5-string bass. I'll see you inside the lesson. So probably about once a month or so, a student will come to me and ask me, do you have any courses or resources to help me learn the 5-string bass? After all, I'm a massive 5-string bass fan. I think it's a super cool instrument. But my response to them is always, well, how well do you know the 4-string bass? But often they come back to me and go, but I want to learn the 5-string. And what becomes clear from that point is they conceive the 5-string bass as a completely different instrument to the 4-string bass. But the thing is, if you know the 4-string bass really well, it makes the transition to 5 really straightforward. And there's only one key drill that you need to know to make the transition, which is what I'm going to show you today. So the great thing about the bass guitar is it's a geometric or shapes-based instrument. So there are really logical patterns based all over the neck. And once you start spotting these, the whole fretboard will start to open up. But first of all, I'm really curious, what's been your biggest challenge learning the 5-string bass? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments below. So the drill I want to show you today is all about learning this low B string here. Because after all, if you know the 4-string bass, well, you'll already be familiar with how the E, A, D, and G strings work. So the most important pattern that we need to know to start learning the fretboard as a whole to begin with, I believe, is the octave shape. So what I want you to do is play a C at the 3rd fret on the A string. And this is kind of our home string, I like to think of it as, to learn this low B string. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. But first of all, what I want us to do is go up the A string and just play a C major scale to begin with. So what we're going to do is we're going to go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. If you need any help learning that scale, we've got a free resource in our Bass Players Action Pack, which is completely free over at eBassGuitar, which will show you exactly how that fundamental scale works. Link in the description below. So once you're familiar with that pattern, what I want you to do now is play octaves. So I just want you to play a low C and then a high C like that using the standard octave shape. So we have this L shape working here, which is one of our most fundamental geometric patterns on the bass guitar. So what I want you to do is just go up the C major scale just in octaves like this. And then once you're comfortable, say the notes at the same time. So we're going to go C, C, D, D, E, E, F, F, G, G, A, B, B, C, C. The reality is you could use any scale, but I believe the major scale is the simplest scale to start off with. So once you've got this important piece of thinking down and can see how the shapes fall on a 5-string bass, the next stage is to take all of the patterns and ideas that you know on the 4-string bass and start trying them on the 5. The natural place to start is to start playing a few scales to begin with. So often when I'm practicing scales on the 4-string bass, I use the G at the 3rd fret on the E string as kind of a home note like that. And then I'll practice my scales from that point. But what I'd like to do on the 5-string bass is use the D as a home point to begin with. So often what I'll do is I'll practice 2 octave scales from the D down here. Let me demonstrate. So I'll go D. And just carry on like that. And I will find as many different ways as possible using the patterns I know from the 4-string bass and applying them to the 5-string bass. But the really cool thing is, because we've got these extra 5 notes now on the bass, is we've got a bunch more options that we can experiment. And the great thing is 3 octave scales will now work too. So let me demonstrate a 3 octave D major scale. So you can can see there's so much more we can do now we've got this extra range, but the thinking fundamentally comes from the 4-string bass. So your action or your challenge is to find as many different ways as possible to play a D major scale 3 octaves on the 5-string bass. So once you've got comfortable playing simple major scales, the next thing I would try is playing some arpeggios. And a super fun way to try these is to play them off the low C, which is at the 1st fret on the B string like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a C major 7 arpeggio. And the great thing again is we can get this over 3 octaves, and there are a bunch of different ways we can play this. So this is the first way I'd try. Integrate those using the 5-string. Don't forget, if you need any help with how the music theory works here, we've got a whole course on music theory and how it applies to the bass guitar called the Ultimate Music Theory Bootcamp, which is available as part of the Bass Lab Plus program over at eBassGuitar. But as I said, it's really cool because there are a bunch of different ways we can play this arpeggio. We could play it going straight up the B string too. So we could go like that. It has a totally different sound and flavor. Do it again. And back down. So see if you can find as many different ways as possible to play a C major 7 arpeggio, or any arpeggio for that matter, using the notes of the 5-string bass as our low root note. So the last thing I'd like you to try is playing some riffs using the 5th string, and take some of the bass lines that you know from the 4-string and see how they feel using that low B string. But first of all, if you're enjoying this lesson, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because we release a lesson like this every single week here at eBassGuitar. There's a red button somewhere around this video. So the first riff I would recommend trying out, or that springs to mind for that matter, is the old pop riff from Venus by Bananarama, because it falls really brilliantly on the 5-string bass. So the riff sounds like this. I think it was originally a synth line as well, but it works great on the bass guitar. So that's simply 2 Ds. Then we go to the F at the 1st fret on the E string, and then back to the D, so this, and then to 2 Gs at the 3rd fret on the E string, and then drop down to that low C, and then a C sharp and a D. So it's a 1-bar riff using 8th notes. So just see what that sounds like using the low B string. But it has that beautiful earthy sound. Obviously, we can take that pattern and play it anywhere on the neck. Up the octave like that. Or up here. So you've got a ton of options. So what I'm going to do to finish the lesson is have a little bit of a jam in the key of D and show you some ideas using the whole of the range of the instrument, so you can see me having some fun. So guys, that's the end of today's bass guitar lesson. If you've enjoyed this lesson, I've got 2 more videos I'd love you to check out. The first one is called 5 Steps to 5 Strings, which is a deep dive into all of the most important information you need to know about the 5-string bass. And the second video is called 5 Easy Scales, which will take the scales element of the lesson that we've just covered and give you all of the most important information you need to know right there. There are links to both of those lessons in the description below. Cheers, I've been James from eBassGuitar.com. Catch you next time.